and we should be live, hopefully. Let's check as always if everything is working fine. Let me know, guys, when you join, if you can hear me right, if you can see me right. I'm gonna also pull up this live streaming on a different device to double check that everything is working all right, meaning that we got a good connection and the video quality is good, the audio is good. So that's what I'm gonna check here. But you guys, while you join, when you join, please feel free to say hi, ask any questions. You can leave them in the live chat, and more importantly, let me know how the quality is. Let me know if you can hear my guitar as well, not just my voice, and if the volumes are well balanced. That's what I'm gonna double check right now. Okay, yeah, seems to be all right. So I'll keep it here to see if the quality drops or if we have any issues, like it happens sometimes. That was not intentional. I keep it on the other side. And yeah, also to check out that I don't miss any of your questions. So today I want to do this, acoustic live guitar lesson. And as you probably saw from the thumbnail of this live stream, I would like to talk about muting when you play acoustic guitar. Okay, so when we get rhythms like this, okay, that was just an example using a G and E minor C D chord progression. You can think of this as part of my series on tips to improve your acoustic playing and making sure that you play good acoustic guitar, nice and clean, and that you get all of the rhythms, all of the nuances, the dynamics, the muting surely, but also the accents and the staccato, the right feel every time you play acoustic guitar, so that we get from a boring, plain, level of guitar playing into something that sounds definitely more advanced and more professional, if you like. Okay, so I'd like to start from the basics. First of all, I want to clarify, because there is usually this doubt when you talk about muting. I want to clarify that we're not talking about pole muting. We're not talking about this kind of technique here, which is certainly a technique which involves lots of muting, but that sort of muting comes entirely from the right hand. Okay, when you play this, effectively, when you play that, you're doing everything with your right hand, being close to the bridge and making sure that you mute your strings. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight. What we're going to talk about tonight instead is going to be something which has to do more with, left hand muting. Now, the left hand muting is, in my opinion, harder and more, overlooked compared to the right hand muting. Okay, right hand muting is when you do, the palm muting. Left hand is when you strum a chord, okay, and you make sure that only the strings that you want to sound good are actually producing a sound. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. I usually find out that, many of my students actually struggle with this, and some of the comments I get, some of the messages I get are exactly about this, making sure, how do you control, the question is usually, how do you control the muting? How do you make sure that if you hit a chord which doesn't include all of the strings, you actually get only the strings that you want to make sound? Okay, so that's what we're going to address tonight. So I'd like to start from the basics. Okay, from the basics, it means that you need to know, guys, when you play any chord on acoustic guitar, you need to know where the root note is. So if I'm playing a G, it's intentional that I'm starting always from this G. If I play a G, I don't have any issues with the muting, because every time you play a G, the root note is actually on the top string, on the low E string. It's here. When you do this, it's here. Okay, so if you strum all of the strings, that's actually fine. You're gonna be all right with this. You're not gonna, struggle with any kind of muting here, really. So yeah, that's what you do when you play any chord which has the root on the E string. Okay, that could be a G. It could be a chord which doesn't have the root on the E string, but it has another note, the bass note on the E string. So this happens, for instance, if you play an inversion. A classic example is a D over F sharp. Okay, when you play this chord, the chord is D. Okay, but the note on the bass is the third. That's the first inversion. That's a D over F sharp. I'm sure that most of you already played this. Okay, now when you play something like that, again, you don't have to worry, because the top string is actually producing a sound and you want that to make this sound. Okay, we might discuss about the A string in a minute, but you know, the low E string is alright. Okay, the issue is when you play a chord which has the root note, for instance, on the A string, C major, A minor. Okay, bar chords with the root on the A string as well. We'll get to them in a minute. Well, when you do that, you have to make sure that the left hand is muting the strings that you don't want to play. Okay, so how do you do that? Generally speaking, the best approach is this thumb approach, where you grab the neck like an object, like that, and you secure the holding here, the position here with your left hand in a way that you don't produce any open string sound like this. Okay, because if I play a C, an A minor, yeah, it doesn't sound good when you play like that, and the reason is because you're hitting a string, the E, that you don't want to have in this chord, or at least you don't want to have it on the bass. Okay, the E string is part of both a C major and an A minor, but it's clearly not the note that you want to have on the bass, unless you are intentionally playing an inversion. Okay, so if you play a C major like this, all you have to do, if you guys are used, for instance, to play the C like this, okay, with the thumb at your back, all you have to do is bring your thumb up and play this, and it makes all of the difference, because if you don't, this sounds like this. With your thumb, it sounds like this. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. I'm just leaning here on top of the neck with my thumb. I'm not even pressing at all. Okay, I'm just holding my thumb here, and I make sure that while I do that, the thumb is actually stopping this string that I don't want, and I get this sound, which is the sound I want for the C. So if I check the strings, this is muted, and then okay, and you can apply the same concept when you play an A minor, muted, and then this, exactly the same, guys. So you can do this every time that you have a chord which has the root on the A string. Okay, the things become a little bit more complicated when the root note is on the D string. Think about a D major, or even obviously a D minor, D7, or any other chord you like which has the root on the D string, even when you play an F like this, F triad or F major 7. Okay, anytime you play something like that, there are two strings, the E and the A, on top that you don't actually want. So you don't want to have this, you don't want to have this for the F, you don't want to have this for the D. So how do you mute that? That's where the left hand comes handy, because what you have to do is, again, bringing your thumb all the way up and making sure that you're not hitting the E, you're not hitting the A, you are literally just muting it. So you keep your thumb here to produce this D. Now the difference can be incredible when you do something like that. Check this out. If I play the D without the thumb, it sounds like this. This is not good. I mean, if you just started playing guitar, that's okay. You can focus on other things like the muscle memory of the shapes maybe, and this is certainly not the very first thing that you do, but you shouldn't even be waiting like 6-12 months since you start playing guitar to worry about this. This should come pretty soon, because if you worry about these muting things a little bit sooner, your playing will immediately step up. Okay, so what you want to do is, again, holding the neck like this. Okay, some people tell me, but I can't actually physically, mute two strings with the thumb. Well, easy. Start with one, okay? Make sure that together with keeping your thumb here for the muting, you also have the other fingers rotated towards you, because this helps controlling the way you grab the neck. You're gonna feel more comfortable, and you're gonna control the single sounds of the other strings too. So you're gonna make sure that all of the strings actually sound clean when you do this. Like that, okay? So this all comes from the direction of the fingers. You don't play guitar like this, guys, okay? And you don't keep the thumb here. You keep the thumb here. You grab the neck. Like if I've got a glass here and I'm gonna grab the object, that's the way I do it, okay? And I keep the fingers like this, okay? And I do this, all right? That's what I do. You start with one and then slowly you start moving your thumb in a way that you can gently, barely feel the A string under your thumb as well. And they are both gonna be muted, okay? So that when you strum your D, even if you strum 6 strings, muted, muted, the bottom 4 are making a sound. As long as you don't press, okay? You obviously don't want to press this. You don't want to play that. That doesn't sound good. You want to play this, okay? That's what you want to do. So hopefully this makes sense. Again, guys, you apply this to any other chord, any kind of playing that you do which doesn't involve the top 2 strings, and that's something that I encourage to explore because it really makes the guitar playing very interesting, you know. I'm sure, like, I don't even have to look at which strings I'm strumming, okay? Yeah, I try to strum the strings at the bottom because I don't want the low end. But I know that if I do hit the low end, it's gonna be muted, it's not gonna be this, okay? So yeah, that's how you mute in general chords with the root on the 6th, on the 5th, on the 4th string. It's all about the position of the thumb, and something similar also happens when you play bar chords, okay? Again, obviously if you play a bar chord like F, okay, you don't have to worry about this because the root is here and you literally play all of the strings. What you should be worried about is making sure that you get, you know, all of the strings sounding nice and clean. Major and minor chords, same thing, 7s, you know, all sort of chords you can play like that. When the shape that you're moving into the bar chord has the root on the A, and I'm thinking, for instance, A shape, then you need to make sure, if you play a B minor, okay, which is coming from an A minor shape, so the root is here, you need to make sure that you don't have the top string ringing. So you don't want to have this open string, because, you know, depending on where you play this chord, this can sound really bad, like this is really, really bad, and I'm playing an E flat minor with the E on the bass, so that's completely off. But you don't even want to have the bar covering the same fret on the top string like this. This doesn't necessarily sound ugly, but it sounds like you are adding the fifth of the chord on the bass. And again, unless you really want to play an inversion, you know, that's not what you want to do. If you want to play the root position, which means that the root is the lowest note that you hear, and guys, you're gonna do that most of the times, okay? So what you have to do is making sure you play these bar chords, this bar chord, you know, any kind of chord here, with the first finger, rather than being here, going slightly up and gently touching the top string. Because with this little trick, you're gonna mute the top string, okay? And you're gonna hear a beautiful C minor like this. Okay, which is much better than this, which sounds really bad. So yeah, just work on that. Again, thumb very low at the back, in this case, because we're playing bar chords. The first finger should always have a sort of curve at the bottom, because you want to press with the bony part on the side of your fingers. You don't want to use the flash too much. And you want to make sure that the other three fingers are very curved, you know, like this. You don't want to have any fingers like that, because they don't sound good either. So that's what you want to do. So when I play the C minor, I hear only the strings I want. When I play the G minor, for instance, now, I don't have to worry about anything, because the root is on the top string. So yeah, these are important things, basic things to really understand how to mute chords depending on where the root note is. If the root is on the A string, make sure, guys, you mute the top string. And even if you're moving a C shape into, you know, if you are slightly more advanced and you've moved pretty much all of the positions of the caged system. You might know that this is an F, this is an E, E flat, D, all played with the C shape, same kind of thing. Okay, you want to make sure the top string is muted, and also the first string should be muted as well in this case, okay? Unless you want to play something like that, okay, which makes the top string muting a little bit trickier. Okay, now when I was playing a couple of chords before, when I was playing these, I was playing some other forms of muting in between the chords, okay? And these kind of muting forms are, you know, scratchy sounds on the open strings, things like that. Which makes everything you play, you know, more interesting, more groovy, more fun to play, especially if you are home with your friends and you want to play a few songs strumming these chords. Well, that becomes a very percussive feel that you can add to the song just by literally doing this. How do you do that? You do that in between the chords, okay? So between this and the next one, you do this kind of sound. But again, all of this kind of sound can only happen if you really control the left hand, because the muting here comes entirely from the left hand. So what I'm doing, I'm strumming the chord, and when I want to create that scratchy sound, I lift the pressure off my fingers, okay? Now, if I have to stay on the same chord a little bit longer, then I will just keep the shape. As you can see, the C minor still looks like a C minor, and I just don't press as much as before, so it makes sure that I do something like that. Okay, where the shape is there, but because I'm not pressing, I'm lifting the releasing, you know, the pressure of the fingers. I get this, okay? If instead I'm moving towards another chord, okay, then I can absolutely take the shape off as well and keep my fingers more open and straight and just do this. Okay, and then hit the next chord. Okay, because I don't have to stay any longer on that chord, and I can move on to the next chord, really. Okay, so yeah, that's what you do, guys, when you want to create that scratchy sound. You want to stop the sound of the chord and create that scratchy sound. Now, depending on which chord you're playing when you do that, you might have to adjust your technique, and this is something that you should be practicing. So if I do this on the chord progression I was playing at the beginning of this video, how was it? It was G, D minor, C, D. Okay, these are all different chords because the G has the root on the 6th, D minor has the root on the 6th, but it's also an open string, so more difficult to mute. C has the root on the A, and D has the root on the D string, of course. So what do you do? Well, if I play a G, I generally speaking do this. So I make sure that I mute because I do a mix of lifting the fingers, straighten them a little, and make sure that I mute the strings, the open strings that I would have open in between, you know. I mute them by turning a little my finger slightly more straight, okay? Okay, then I go to the E minor, and obviously I can't do the same because the root is an open string. So here, you really have to do this kind of thing, okay? Well, where the other fingers are now muting everything. Kind of like this, okay? Hopefully this makes sense, guys. Okay, and then from here, same on the C, D. So you have to practice how to quickly take the shape off to mute and then do this, okay? Sometimes you don't actually need to take all of your fingers off and get this sort of shape because you can do it with other fingers you're not using. Classic example that I'm sure you've seen, you know, many people doing often is the little pinky thingy here, okay, with your little finger. And the way you do it is, for instance, you're playing an A minor. You see already what I'm doing. When I have to, you know, strum the scratchy, ghosty sound, this is called also ghost note. What I do it with my pinky, like that. So, because I've got my pinky free to do that, I straighten it in a way that, you know, it gently touches all of the other strings. I don't have to take the shape off, and that's very helpful for the rhythm. Let me get a softer pick. You know, you can do the same on the E minor. You can do this, or you can just do this for the E minor. That's up to you. Now, depending on, you know, how good your guitar is, sometimes you hear the harmonic, natural harmonic sounds really enhanced, like that. So this is a slight issue of, you know, playing acoustic guitar, that, you know, when you play your muting, depending on which fret you are at, you might get things like that, and there is not much that you can do about it. That's still okay. You're still muting the chord. But look at this E minor. Can you hear it? I don't know if you can hear it through my microphone. Let me know, guys. I think you can. You know, there is a little bit of, you know, G harmonic, you know, on fret number 3. That's inevitable, because that's where, when I play an E minor, that's where my pinky goes. It goes here. Okay, but that's still alright. That's still better than, you know, hearing all of the strings and creating this noisy strumming patterns, okay? That's what you want to do. Okay, like... And sometimes it becomes a mix of two hands, and it becomes something that you don't even think about, really. And you just find a way of create the balance, the contrast between the sound of the chord and the sound of the muted strings. But again, this comes with the practice, and the best way to do that is really choose a song that you like, song that you already know how to play, and next time you are with your friends and you're playing, you're singing all together, you make sure that you become, you know, a one-man band. I talked about this in many other videos, playing the drums for what you play, which is not just the chords, not just the notes on the bass, but it's the real percussive feel on all you play, really. And the best way to do this is doing it with somebody else and making sure that you support the entire song just with the sound of your acoustic guitar. Okay, so that's really the best thing that you can do. Okay, take off the pressure, mute, and as I said before, you can do this even when you play bar chords. So I don't have to worry about which strings I'm playing with my right hand. My right hand keeps doing the drums, okay? And the left hand chooses when to mute the strings and when to have the strings ringing. Guys, I just want to remind you, if you have any questions, this is not going to be a very long lesson today. So if you guys have any questions about the things that I'm mentioning, please feel free to leave them in the live chat. I've also added a few links in the description below that you might want to check out for further videos where I talked about these kind of things, because these things are all part of, you know, improving the way we play the acoustic guitar and make our acoustic guitar playing more interesting and more groovy, more percussive. So I talked about how you can get all of the best, percussive feels and sounds when you play acoustic guitar. There's both when you play with your pick and when you play finger picking as well. So yeah, a few important videos about these things are linked in the description below if you want to check them out. And yeah, let's read together a question. Do you use the side of your palm to mute, or is there any catch? Okay, I see what you mean. I actually don't do very much of the side. If we are talking about left hand, so if we are talking about left hand, I'm not really using very much the side of the palm. It's more like a straight thing, okay? So best way to see that is, I'll try to show you this way. I'm very, parallel to the strings when I do this. It's slightly different when we talk instead about palm muting, like okay, if we do this, then yeah, it's more like the side of your palm on the right hand. But as we said at the beginning of this live stream, guys, we're not going to talk about palm muting on acoustic guitar today. Okay, if you're interested, if this is something that you want me to talk about, then fine, let me know, and we can definitely discuss this. We can, spend some time together talking about palm muting on acoustic guitar. What's the best way of playing, this kind of rhythm, right? Which is really important, especially in today's music when you listen to pop songs. If anybody catched which song I was thinking of playing this kind of rhythm, let me know that in the comments as well. Oh, you're using the left hand. I was talking about the right hand. Great. Okay, sure. If it's the right hand, then fine. For that sort of palm muting, yeah, it's the side of your palm when you do this. But today's kind of muting is all about the left hand, because I think that the right hand is something that you're more used to, mute with, while the left hand is a little bit more overlooked. And when we talk about muting on the left hand, there are so many things to keep in mind, like where the root note is, what is the best finger or the best fingers to actually mute the sound of the strings. But in this way, if you're not producing the muting with your right hand, the right hand can just, keep being the drums of what you're playing. You're really playing the drums when you do this, and the left hand really decides when you are gonna hit the actual chord. And when you're gonna stop it, okay? Generally use right hand, but left hand is great too. Yeah, I think it's, it's certainly something to explore in both directions. We should be all comfortable with both the left hand and the right hand with the muting, but definitely, to me, it feels like most people only look at right hand muting, and I think the left hand muting is really important. Okay, it's even more important probably on electric guitar, or probably equally important on the electric guitar, especially when you play funky rhythms, when you play like single note. When you play this kind of stuff, you are really strumming pretty much all of the strings, or at least you're not focusing on exactly which strings you are hitting, and it's all about the left hand to mute the strings that you don't want. Obviously you can try this on the acoustic, but on the acoustic guitar it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Best way to practice this is just choosing a specific melody like that, and then just strum all of the strings. It's very funky when you do it. Effectively, when I do that, I'm strumming 6 strings, but if I want to play, for instance, this D here, this is muted, muted, plays, mute, mute. So I'm really hitting all of the strings, but only one of them is producing a sound and the others are muted. When we talk about this single note mute, then yes, it's the left hand which is muting, but there are so many more things to keep in mind, because depending on which finger you're using for the note that you want to play, you will have to adapt the others to actually mute the other strings. Hopefully this makes sense, although it's not the main topic for today, guys, actually. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. You know, the way we mute the chords and the way we mute, you know, the rhythm on acoustic guitar. Hopefully this makes sense. If you guys have other you know, questions about this, feel free to leave them in the live chat or in the comments below and I'll get back to you. If you want to support this channel, the best way as always is leaving a like to this video. If you enjoyed it, if you've learned something from this video, feel free and make sure to hit the like button, and if it's your first time on the channel, make sure to subscribe as well. This way you get, if you ring the bell at least, you'll get a notification, you know, about half an hour before these kind of live streamings happen. And also when a new video is up on the channel. Today I'm gonna release, in about an hour, maybe less actually, I'm gonna release a new video on acoustic guitar, so you might want to check that out as well. It's one of those neo soul and R&B grooves. If you guys are familiar with the channel, you know that I make a lot of R&B and neo soul videos. It's been a while, I mean, without acoustic guitar grooves about neo soul. It was more an electric guitar thing. So I made a new video, and yeah, it's gonna be out probably in about half an hour. Let me check, what time is it? Yeah, in about half an hour, maybe less. And yeah, you might be interested in checking that out as well. That being said, guys, really thank you for joining me for this live streaming lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Keep an eye on the channel because I'll be talking about these topics even more in the next few weeks. All right. Wish you all the best for a great weekend ahead. Take care of yourself. I'll be seeing you very soon.